Welcome to AI and Critical Literacy, Enhancing Critical Thinking in the Classroom, Part 2, Seeing is Not Believing. My name is Judi Kibelstis with the LRC-South at Rowan University. The LRC-South is part of the LRC Network, a project of the New Jersey Department of Education, Office of Special Education. Today, we're going to discuss the importance of critical literacy skills in an AI-infused world. And especially, we're going to explore some resources that are going to help you support your students in critically analyzing the visual content that they see every day. We've talked in previous videos about the limitations and concerns of using AI. And what we're going to focus in on today is accuracy, especially concerning deep fakes and fraud and abuse. Now, just as a reminder, we are teaching Generation Alpha. These are students who have had technology in their hands since almost infancy. So this is much more than entertainment for them. It's really what they use to engage, to learn, to interact with people. But again, we need to teach them the skills to do this safely and to do it with kind of a critical lens. So we need to examine the information that's in front of us. We need to develop our skills to critically analyze what we're seeing, what we're hearing, and then we need to be able to kind of impart this knowledge and model it for our students because it really is critically important for them. And the idea of critical literacy, it's not just what we read or that we hear anymore, but literally it's questioning what we're seeing with our own eyes. So as a quick review, critical literacy is the ability to identify purpose, motivation, and potential biases to enhance overall comprehension and critical thinking. And this is going to give our students the skills to really participate in this global world that they are going to be part of. So just like we talked about in our previous video, there are certain skills that we need when we're assessing AI. And this doesn't change much from what we're reading or what we're writing to what we're seeing with our own eyes. So lateral reading skills just kind of shift into a visual media. And it's still the same idea. Can you find this information elsewhere? Can you find this in various sources to show that this is actually something that is true? And that means that we need to be able to recognize reputable sources. Where is this being shared? Is it by a reputable company or source or domain? We need to understand the motivation behind what's being posted. Is it, for profit? Is it clickbait? Is it bullying? Because that's really a big part of some of these visual elements that we're seeing right now is changing those visual media to kind of have a purpose that unfortunately in middle and high school is a bullying type of purpose. Let's share this fake video of someone. So it's a really awful thing, but we need to be aware that this is a skill that we need. We can't just believe what we see with our eyes. And that's where that critical thinking comes in. We want to build that metacognition, have them thinking about what they're seeing all of the time. And it's really a key to interact with AI is determine what is real and what is not. This is a big skill that we have to do. And when it comes to media and visuals, really sometimes it's as simple as, does it kind of pass the sniff test? Trust your gut. If it doesn't look like something that they would have done or it doesn't seem right, then it really probably isn't. So the importance of this when we talk about visual media, this image really gives you a good idea of just how far AI generated images have come. So the top image was from March 2022. So a little bit before kind of the world was introduced to the awe of AI as a tool that everyone can use with the launch of ChatGPT and things like that. So this is that visual media. How can we create these generative AI images? And over the course of a year, you can see the development that this mid-journey image of Yoda had taken. It had gone from something really kind of odd and abstract and definitely created in some odd way to really a pristine visual. And here we are almost 2 years later. Think of how much better these images are getting. AI has already progressed well beyond what we predicted just a few short years ago. So this technology is something that we're going to encounter every day, and we really need to develop the skills to assess what we're seeing. Since 2019, the presence of deepfakes, which are these hyper-realistic AI-generated videos, photos, and even audio recordings, has surged by over 550%. And it continues to become more sophisticated and therefore more problematic each day. So deepfake technology uses AI to create videos, voice imitations, images of people doing or saying things they never actually did. And one of the best descriptions I've heard of it is thinking of it as like Photoshop on steroids. For example, the image on the left is an image that was created in 2013 on Midjourney that we just saw with Yoda images. So these images took the internet by storm, but they are fake images of Pope Francis. The other image is Katy Perry at the 2024 Met Gala. And the 2024 Met Gala guests were instructed to dress according to a theme of a garden in time. However, Katy Perry did not attend the event. So this image even fooled her own mother. And it wasn't even a really sophisticated attempt to, get people or whatever. It really was just a fun creation. It's a beautiful gown. She looks wonderful in it. However, anyone who's really looking at this knows almost immediately it was fake because it was the wrong color of the carpet for the Met Gala for that year. They didn't bother to alter the carpet or the background or anything like that. They just kind of put her in the setting and made this beautiful dress so people kind of got attention to it. So, but if you look at these very critically, you can kind of start to see some things that might make you guess. For example, with Pope Francis, in the leftmost video, what is he holding in his hand? It looks odd. It just looks like it was kind of cut off. You can't tell, is it a cup? Is it a coffee mug? Is it something else? Additionally, some people pointed out that on his left hand, apparently he's wearing a wedding ring. Might make you think. Some priests wear it as, married to God, but might make you think, does the Pope generally wear a ring? Additionally, there were questions about the crucifix, how there was only a chain on one side, you couldn't see it going up on the other side. Some of the shadows as well. So things that we can kind of look at. In the photo to the right, one of the things that most people seem to comment on is the fact that he doesn't look like he has legs. So it kind of just blacked out at the bottom. It doesn't look like there's actually like legs there as well. It's just the string from the coat and it kind of fades into nothing. As well as the background is extremely faded. You really can't tell where he is. So things that might make you kind of question a little bit. As I mentioned with the Katy Perry picture, the carpet was completely wrong for the Met Gala for that given year. But if you look a little bit closer in the background and you look at the photographers, as you're moving across the hedge in the back, there's a white curtain, and just at that spot where the white curtain ends and the kind of tent behind it begins, take a look at those photographers. They're kind of meshed into one another. So that's a great sign that this is probably an AI generated image. Obviously, these two people kind of became one and kind of crushed into one another. So when you have strange nuances like that, it's a good sign that it is AI generated. Now, when it comes to fake images and videos, we can take a lot of things, and it's called like a face transplant. They can literally just do a face swap. And this is a great video. It's, we all remember Back to the Future starring Michael J. Fox as Marty and Christopher Lloyd as Doc. But what happens, when you want to face swap someone in? So now let's watch it with Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr. And this is a really rather seamless video. And this is all made with things that are readily available for people.
How's your head?
Oh, good. Fine.
Oh, I've been so worried about you ever since you ran off the other night. Are you okay?
Come on, we're tardy.
I'm sorry, I have to go.
Come on!
Isn't he a dreamboat?
Doc, she didn't even look at him.
This is more serious than I thought. Apparently your mother is amorously infatuated with you instead of your father.
Whoa, wait a minute. Doc, are you trying to tell me that my mother has got the hots for me?
Precisely.
Whoa, this is heavy.
There's that word again, heavy. Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational pull?
What?
So now when we're looking at this, we know that that's not Michael J. Fox. We know that that's not Christopher Lloyd. And it's a really great deepfake type of video. Again, done for fun. If we look a little more closely, you'll see that Tom Holland's chin, the shadows under it don't quite mesh up. There's that little speck on Robert Downey Jr.'s forehead where they tried to mesh the face in with the hair of Christopher Lloyd. So little things that can give us, a moment of pause. However, really well done, and done most likely with, very basic equipment. So this is something that everybody really is getting access to. So when it comes to the question of can you spot the fake, things have been going on for a long time. This isn't something new. There's very popular Tom Cruise deepfake videos that came out in 2021. and kind of like, again, took the internet by storm as TikTok famous Tom Cruise. So again, another video kind of made for fun.
It's a little embarrassing, you know, it reminds me, it was once in Russia, I ran into Gorbachev. He said, you know, Mr. Movie Star, are you nervous? I said, no, Mr. Gorbachev, I'm not nervous, I don't. He goes, well, remember how much a polar bear weighs. I said, polar bear? He said, enough to break the ice. It's the last time I've ever seen Mikhail Gorbachev.
So again, another kind of face swap video. What are our clues for this? Well, sometimes the exaggerated mannerisms, we know a lot of those mannerisms that Tom Cruise does, but is he necessarily going to do 4, 5, 6 of them in a short little video like that? So those kind of things, they're trying to like pull on things that we might know about this person, especially if it's a famous person. This is something they might do. They might say little idiosyncrasies that make it unique. Again, if it's happening over and over again in strange places, it's a good indication it might be fake. So, you know, all the images and videos we've seen so far were pretty much for fun. But what happens when deepfakes turn malicious? You know, they can make social media profiles, impersonate individuals in real-time conversations with audio fakes. What happens if they start requesting, like, you know, profile or account changes, or the voice bots have been trained to mimic you? So we really have to get into just kind of a preemptive state of questioning almost everything. AI-generated content has already flooded the internet, so you really have to be cautious when you see some things. And because AI is that general purpose technology that we talked about in the last video, you know, it's something we all have access to and we can all be fooled by it. So it's really critical to have the skills we need to assess what we see online. And then always investigate things if there's an image or a video or an audio clip that might not seem real. You know, deepfakes can be pictures, videos, you know, all sorts of things. We use it every day in social media. Snapchat has the face swap filters. And that's, you know, it's fun and it's, you know, something engaging to do and we kind of play with it. But things like that can become pretty serious issues in reality. So here's another example of a website. This person does not exist. Just to show you how easy it is to make AI images of people. None of these people actually exist. And, you know, what we have to do is start looking at these images. What might make us think this isn't quite right? So look at things like their eyes. Do their eyes look correct? Are they misshapen? Are they missized? Something as simple as earrings. On the bottom, the woman has an earring in one ear, but not on the other. Could she have lost it? Sure, but that's sometimes a little bit of a sign. Also, her ears look a little bit of a different size. She's pretty much looking straight on, so it's not like her head is angled, that her ears should be that different. The man on the bottom wearing the hat, if you look at the bottom where the hat kind of goes over his ear, that's a little bit of a blurry image there. Might raise some flags for us. But the other ones are really very good. So we really have to look critically, look at shadows, look at little things that might kind of raise a little flag with us. And always just be ready to question things and not just take everything at face value. Let's take a look at this deep fake of Morgan Freeman from the Dutch YouTube channel DeepNet, which posted it in 2022. So this deepfake is pretty well executed and somewhat unsettling, especially when we consider how far this technology has progressed since 2022. But it does provide, you know, some interesting thoughts and gives us a pretty relevant warning.
I am not Morgan Freeman, and what you see is not real. Well, at least in contemporary terms, it is not. What if I were to tell you that I am not even a human being? Would you believe me? What is your perception of reality? Is it the ability to capture, process, and make sense of the information our senses receive? If you can see, hear, taste, or smell something, does that make it real? Or is it simply the ability to feel? I would like to welcome you to the era of synthetic reality. Now, what do you see?
So in this video, they actually just superimposed Morgan Freeman on the individual's face. So one of the things we want to look for with videos is, is the mouth moving correctly? Is it matching the words that are coming out of the mouth? Is there something strange? Is it not syncing up? But again, getting increasingly hard to do. So unfortunately, there is no single telltale sign to help you spot a deepfake. And detection is becoming increasingly difficult because this content is becoming much more realistic, much more widespread. And these AI detectors that are out there really struggle to keep pace with the new methods. So the sheer volume alone of this fake content really makes this a difficult challenge. And let's be honest, most of us aren't analyzing images before we like or share on social media. And to make matters worse, many of us are just simply taking the information that we see as we're scrolling through these and just accepting it, especially if it confirms our own thoughts or stereotypes or biases. And that's what a lot of these deepfakes are playing on. So we really need to pay attention, and that takes time. And that's what the scammers are really counting on. Our attention span has been altered by our technology use, and we've gotten so used to just rapidly scrolling through changing content. Think of social media. It's short, it's quick sound bites, quick videos, and this can make it really difficult to focus on longer, more in-depth content. So, we have to be aware. And we also have to consider that published material, whether it's text, or images, videos, it no longer undergoes, the level of vetting and verification that it used to. Anybody can put it out there, and it's out, and it's information that's out to the world. So our skills from telling fact from fiction really need some improvement. But we do have the ability to be critical thinkers. And what we need to do is to more consciously apply that critical thinking more consistently in regard to all the information that we encounter on a day-to-day basis. So a few tips and steps that we can take to help spot deepfakes. So think a bit about this in relation to the images and videos that we just watched. Check for color and textual differences, especially where, that they've blended that image onto an original. And we talked about this a little bit with the face swaps with Tom Holland and the shadow of the chin and Doc's little kind of gray speck on his forehead. Look for asymmetries. Unmatching earrings, weird facial features, eyes that are different sizes or looking in slightly different directions. When it comes to a video, sometimes there's awkwardness in body movement or speech where the lips don't sync up and match the movement of the mouth. Is there something unusual in the background that doesn't seem right or just so blurred that you really can't tell where it is? That can sometimes be a tell. Check people's hands, arms, legs. Do they have the right number of fingers and legs? Are, the images weird or warped together in some way? This is a really common thing, with especially some of the earlier AI images and some of the free software. And then finally, just trust your gut. If it doesn't seem right, it very well may not be. That whole idea of, does it pass the sniff test? If you watch it and you go, that doesn't seem like something they would say or they would do, it probably isn't. So really go back and use those critical literacy skills, lateral reading, checking your sources, looking for motivation, and try to figure out, maybe this isn't quite right. So how can you use your critical thinking skills to spot fakes? Let's start by examining the images. Zoom in, look for errors or glitches. And we've done some of this in some of the examples that we've shown. A lot of times when they're manipulating a video or image, they're going to focus on the face. So look to see, is the mouth in sync with the words? Are they moving strangely? Check the eyes, because eyes are really much easier to fake when they're looking directly at you, but profiles are harder because you have to get the direction of the eye and the light source correctly. And really look at the light source. Are there shadows on the image, and are they in line with where the light is? Look for glare on glasses. Does that glare change as they move? Also check the source. Is it a reputable source, or is it a bot or a troll? This is that idea of that lateral reading and examining reputable sources. Maybe this is coming from a malicious website. So you can use things like a reverse image checker or a fact checker to help you discern the authenticity of the image itself. And then finally, question everything and trust your instincts, because if it seems off, there's a very good chance that it is. If we think the image or content we are seeing may be fake, It's also really important to consider why the content was created and by whom. And a lot of times when we're questioning the content, we have to think about that purpose behind it. So purposes generally fall into some basic categories like propaganda, getting that emotional response, disinformation, which is false or misleading information. And when we hear this, we usually think of things like fake news, but this is also, as we talked about before, a major factor when it comes to adolescents and online bullying, creating that fake content as a bullying tactic against someone else. We have conspiracy theories. There's clickbait, which is usually, they want you to click on this for likes and hits, and then it kind of is a content driven purpose that leads to some type of payment. There's financial incentives behind it. So when we see this information, think about what was the motivation and the purpose for creating and sharing this information. And finally, be aware of confirmation bias. And this is a trap that a lot of us fall into. Just because we agree with it doesn't mean that it's true. And this is true for any information that we receive from various types of outlets and content, but it's especially true for images and information that we find online, because that is not vetted, not processed in any way to confirm the information before it is shared. So if you're doing your critical literacy practice and you're reading laterally and you're looking at reputable sources, you may have to consider that the new information you find may actually be more accurate than your original thinking or the original post that you went to share. And it's a really difficult concept because it's much easier to agree with information that confirms our ideas and our thoughts and our tendencies than something that kind of makes us think and challenges those ideas. So again, we always need to constantly be returning these critical literacy skills. We all need the skills to analyze, evaluate, synthesize all of the information that's coming to us 24 hours a day. We need to have the inquiry to form these well-reasoned decisions and conclusions. And then finally, we need to really critically reflect on how successful we are with these approaches and think about ways that we can constantly be improving them. And these are the skills that will always separate humans from, the machine learning and the AI. We really have to think about the complexity of our cognitive skills, our uniqueness, our creativity, our empathy, and even our intuition, and really apply those to our day-to-day lives when we're dealing with this constant overload of media. So finally, we can start developing critical literacy skills as early as tomorrow. You can do this in class tomorrow. And these are activities that can be, used across varying grade levels, determine what works best for your students. In our last video, we talked about the idea of guess the prompt and building that, that really descriptive language with prompt building. And you can use the same idea, but simply switch it to, can you spot the fake? So have students look at these images and discuss what tells they see in the images that might suggest that it's fake. Because once we start practicing this analysis, we naturally begin to look at things a little bit more critically. The dog with the 3 legs, it's looking a little fake to me. So hopefully it's looking a little fake to you as well. There's even activities that you can do online that are a little bit more interactive. Google Arts and Culture has a variety of games available. I like this because there's no sign-in needed, so you don't have to worry about privacy issues. And one of the ones I like to play with is a game called the Odd One Out. So Odd One Out is quick, it's easy, and it's a really good way to get the conversation started. This game goes really fast. You have 4 hearts or lives, if you will, so you can get 4 arrows in it. But, think about that. It's moving quickly. How much time do we actually spend analyzing images online before we like or share, or just allow it to influence in some way? So it's really moving at that similar pace that we are. So let's take a minute here and see if you can spot the fakes. So how did you do? I really like this activity. It's a very simple activity that you can do as a do now. And while it does provide the sources for these images, it really doesn't provide insight into how we can determine a fake, but it really does give us a great opportunity to start the conversation and to have our students start thinking about the validity of what they were saying. So, it's a great way to do it, to kind of get things in, start your conversation in your classroom. Why did you select that image? Was there anything that stood out to you that made you think it was fake? This is a great way to let your students play with, some artificial intelligence, but make it very purposeful. Another resource is Microsoft's Spot the Deepfake. It's an online quiz that challenges the students to kind of question what they're seeing, but I like this a little bit more. It's a little bit more complex because it gives you some feedback and additional information. So if you look at the hook under the title, it says spotting deepfakes isn't as easy as you might think. And then it says, what if I told you that the first manned mission to the moon ended in disaster instead of success? What if President Nixon himself told you? Would you believe it? This again is going to tie into that idea of playing with a purpose. So think about, why was this fake created as you're watching this? Who benefits from it? Who would it harm? So again, I really like the feedback that this game provides. I like the little factoids at the bottom with some additional information that kind of prompts you for a little bit deeper thinking as you're moving through the game. So just remember, there's a lot of games like this available online. Just please remember to play with them and assess their validity and their purpose, and really have an understanding with them before you introduce it to your classroom. And again, there's some really great resources out there if you know where to look and if you're looking at reputable sources. One of my favorites is AI for Education. So this is a great guide to start those classroom conversations, have deeper conversations with your students. AI for Education's work is explicitly designed for use within schools. So, when you're looking at resources to use with your students, make sure you're looking at it critically and be aware about what tools and resources you're bringing in with your students and how they're going to interact with them, because we want to ensure student privacy above everything else. So to wrap all of this up, there's some great information out there that you can bring into your classroom and start these conversations. That's step one. Making people aware that everything that they see isn't necessarily true is the first step in, being able to analyze and question what we're seeing. Model how to critically question what you are seeing and consider why you're seeing it with your students. Bring these in, have little discussions throughout the day, make it a part of your daily activity. And then finally, remember, we need to build these critical literacy skills and use them. And the idea here is that critical literacy doesn't just apply to our students. Most adults do not have the skills they need to analyze the information. It's a skill we all need more and more each day. And really, if we can just get to the point where we start thinking before we click or like or share something or just assume something is real, then we're all moving in the right direction. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video. There's some more information on the LRC website as well. And hopefully we'll see you back on the LRC for some additional information soon. Thanks for joining us today. The Learning Resource Center Network provides support, services, and professional development to educators and families of students with disabilities. There are 4 locations across New Jersey.